the idea behind the rot risk assessment is that you can determine the post-harvest risk of rot development when you're actually harvesting the fruit, which allows you to potentially assign the fruit to different markets depending on the likelihood of rot development after harvest. For example, if you've got you do a rot risk incubation at harvest and you find that there's a lot of rot development in those incubated samples, then you might assign a high risk to that batch or consignment of fruit, and you may market it domestically rather than market it or send it for export, because that fruit has a relatively high risk of developing rots. Whereas if you do the incubation, conduct the incubation test and find that there's very little rot development, then you can feel assured that you can export that fruit. And where export's taking 3 to 4 weeks for sea freight, then another period of up to 3 or 4 weeks in the importing country. So you're looking at 8 weeks that the fruit has to remain in good quality. So you want to have some assurance at harvest that will be the case, in combination with using sulfur dioxide pads as well as further insurance. In the Australian table grape industry, it's standard commercial practice to treat harvested fruit with sulfur dioxide pads, and that's been done for over 40 years. And in general, these pads control rot development, fungal rot development, very well during subsequent cool storage or sea freight export. And in most seasons, growers and exporters won't have a problem with rot development. For example, after sea freight and importer storage and then retailing. That said, over the last 5 years, we've been working on a harvest rot risk protocol where we incubate a sample of grape bunches at harvest to determine the rot risk potential of a fruit consignment prior to it being exported or marketed. And we found it can be quite a useful tool for growers and exporters to assign rot risk to a consignment. This assignment can be either high risk, intermediate risk, or low risk. And this is based on incubating a sample of bunches from the vineyard at harvest. The incubation usually takes place at 18 degrees, so it can be done by a grower quite easily at room temperature. And usually the fruit's placed in plastic bags and incubated for about 5 days. And the grower or exporter can monitor the incubation, and after 4 to 6 days can assess the level of rot development in each of those samples. And that will provide them an idea of the risk of the fruit consignment that sample is attached to, or that harvested fruit. It provides them an idea of the rot risk during subsequent storage, export and marketing. The potential for grapes to develop rots is also determined by the specific cultivar and other factors such as vineyard management and control of diseases in the vineyard during fruit development. So rot risk assessment is just one component of controlling post-harvest rots, as is sulfur dioxide treatment, which generally works, but in difficult seasons with high rot risk in the vineyard, it may fail. And when we're looking at rot incidents after cool storage or after export, we aren't talking about high rot levels for the fruit to become unmarketable. So generally it's, if a bunch has more than 2% rot incidence by weight, then generally it can be considered unmarketable. So it's very low levels of rot incidence that can cause problems during marketing. So the idea is, between SO2 treatment, harvest rot risk assessment, and good vineyard management, we can prevent rot development that will cause problems in export and domestic markets most seasons.